And so invitations are very important and very powerful things in the world that we live in. We invite people into our homes. We invite people into our lives. The power of the invitation is a very important thing for us to understand because it is the thing that Jesus has given us. One of the things he's given us to help spread the good news is a simple invitation. My name is Matt. I'm a pastor's kid. I grew up in a pastor's family, and it was a good upbringing. I had a wonderful childhood. I had fantastic parents. Can pay me later, Dad. And it was a really good time. I never really went through rebellious stages. I never really had a typical pastor's kid experience. Some of you guys know pastor's kids, and some of you know pastor's kids. And I'm not that type of pastor's kid. Good kid. But what happened to me was, as I grew up within the church environment, I grew up with quite a heavy expectation of how you need to act as a pastor's kid, how to behave, how to do things, and so you kind of carry that weight. And so what ends up happening is you start to show up for that particular image that people have for you. You start to engage with that idea that people have for you. And so at school, lines would come at me like, hey, you're the pastor's kid, like you can't act like that. So I punched him in the face, and I'm joking. And so that's my story. And then one day, I'm a pastor's kid. I'd been in church my whole life, got baptized young, experienced Jesus in powerful ways as a kid, wonderful moments. Felt Jesus touch my chest once when I was in the USA at a conference. Phenomenal, beautiful moments. But it was only in my early 20s that I discovered that he wanted me to give up what the world sees in me to take on what God has in store for me. And so, this coming Sunday, we have a really cool speaker. Would you come to church with me and listen to it? See, that's how you can invite someone to church. You need to know your story, how you can tell it in the elevator pitch, how you can speak to somebody, and then invite them into a space. Come and see a man who changed my life. You see, the power of the invitation is not just the logistical process of inviting somebody. The power of the invitation is Jesus. He's the reason why we invite people. He's the reason why we are here. And so I want to encourage you this morning to learn your story, to know what your story is, that you have a means through which you can invite somebody. This is not a please church, we're doing an invite message this morning because we want to get the numbers up. This is not what this message is about. This is about tapping into the Great Commission, which is to go out to all the world and make disciples of everybody, telling them about the good news of Jesus, being Jesus in the world around us, being loose change in the hands of God, that he would be able to spend us as he wills us to be spent. And the reality is, the world that we live in needs Jesus desperately. I don't know if you've noticed. And whether you like it or not, or whether I like it or not, the vehicle through which Jesus has determined that his kingdom would advance in this world is through a group of people in a local church. So obviously, the individual is important, but the individual outside of community doesn't have the power, the impact that Jesus designed, and so his church, his bride, is a vital part, a strategic part of his reality for the advancement of his kingdom. And so the invitation is important. The invitation of people into your lives, that they can get to know you, that they can get to know the Jesus in you, is a very important part. So I'm going to be kind of circling that this morning. In John 1:43-51, we see an incredible moment here. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, "Follow me." Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael, his mate, and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." "Nazareth? Can anything good come from there?" Nathanael asked. "Come and see," said Philip. When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said to him, "Here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." "How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, "I saw you while you were sitting still under the fig tree before Philip called you." Then Nathanael declared, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Philip gets it. He encounters Jesus. He gets it. He has a moment. And we know that he gets it because he goes and invites somebody with the knowledge that he's got it. Come and see this guy called Jesus. You've got to come hang out with this guy. This is something special about this guy. And Nathanael responds like most of us fear our friends respond to the invite. that guy from that place. But Philip doesn't stop. He says, yo, come and see. Come and see. So Nathanael goes, okay, why? Nathanael and Philip knew each other. Friends trust friends. So he said, I'm going to come and I'm going to listen to this guy. It says here, he said, we found the one Moses wrote about in the law, the one whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Nate is skeptical about this, but he goes, why? Just to repeat, friends trust friends. You know you got friends in your life, they actually trust you. You know your friends that ask you, like, what car should I buy, or what cell phone contract should I get, or this is the bond, and your friends trust you. So they trust your words. And so they also will trust your invitation. Come and see, it's the invitation. It's the friend going to his friend and saying, come and see what I found in this man called Jesus. And then Nate comes, despite a little bit of a reservation, Nathan comes, he experiences Jesus. Now, just to say, teachers often taught disciples under trees. It was hot. I don't know if you've been to that part of the world, but it's hot. Shade is an important part of your social gathering spaces, which is popular because it's shade. But Jesus, knowing exactly what tree Nathanael was under, becomes a demonstration of a genuine spiritual, supernatural knowledge. And that's an encounter. That's a Holy Spirit encounter that Nathanael experiences with Jesus. Genuine supernatural knowledge. And he goes, you must be the one whom my friend is talking about. Yeah. Wow. An invitation ends up with an encounter. An encounter ends up with the declaration of identity of the Father, and therefore the identity of who I am now as a result of him being my dad. It's the power of the invitation. The power of the invitation. In John 4, 1 to 42, it's quite a long passage. I'm not going to be unpacking the whole thing, so don't stress. But it says the woman at the well. One of my most favorite encounters in the entire scripture. One of my most favorite moments that Jesus has. One, he's talking to an untouchable. So no one liked Samaritans. It was like an Australian. It was like no one liked them. What are we even doing with you? Like, seriously. And so the reality of that moment is Jesus encounters, she's a woman, she's been caught up in adultery. It's this incredible moment, this encounter with Jesus where he sees her, he loves her, he is kind to her, he is gracious with her, he breaks all the rules that she's experienced, all the social rules of how people that are different. So she was basically like a foreigner in the land of the Jews. The Samaritans were not popular. No one liked them. Plus she's a woman. Plus she's caught in adultery. So it's this like really complicated thing that Jesus has walked into according to how you're supposed to deal with people in this day. And what ends up happening? He talks to her. And he knows about her past. He knows about her affairs. And he sees her unlike any other man has seen her. He sees her for who she is. He sees her as a woman with dignity. And so she has this incredible encounter with him at the well. And so then it says in 29, in John 4, verse 29, it tells us that she leaves behind her. So she was there to get water. She leaves the bucket behind. She runs into town and she says, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? What I love about this story particularly is sometimes we think for the invitation to go out, we have to be convinced of this Jesus guy. She's not even there yet, but come and see this guy. I think he could be the Messiah. See, sometimes we have to realize it's not about what you know. It's not about your qualifications, not about how much church you've experienced, how much Bible you've read. It's actually about your curiosity. It's also about our wanting more of this person. I'm also on a journey with Jesus. Come on a journey with Jesus as I am on a journey with Jesus. I'm not the finished product yet. So many of us disqualify ourselves from being used by God to advance His kingdom, for people to encounter Him through us because of His kingdom advancing, that we go, oh, I don't have the full picture yet. So I'm rather just going to not say anything. And she says, could this be the Messiah? And guess what happens? A group of people who were suspicious of her and her reputation even, they came out of town and they made their way towards Him. Isn't that interesting? She encounters Jesus, she goes and tells her community, and she invites them to come and see. Okay, while that's happening, Jesus has a little moment with his disciples. Okay, so there's like a bit of a scene change. Then we go back in verse 39 that says this. Isn't this incredible? 39. Many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. Wow. He told me everything I ever did. So when the Samaritans came to him, this was verse 40. When the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them. And he stayed 2 days. And because of his words, many more became believers. An invitation ends up with an encounter. An encounter ends up with Samaritans declaring that Jesus is God, believing in him, in his ways, in his works, in his words. A simple invitation, a simple act of obedience to the words that his disciples didn't know were going to come a couple of chapters later in the Gospels when he said, now you've got to go out and do this thing for real. Here we see two incredible examples of two people, different stages of life. One was an exemplary disciple. He got it immediately. The other was a woman caught in between two worlds of sin and grace. And while she's still in between those two worlds of her sinful identity and the daughter that Jesus has told her that she is, in that space of uncertainty, she goes out and she calls people to this guy that's currently changing her life. I just find that so remarkable. The best part is both of those people meet Jesus. The point of the invitation is not the invitation. The point of the invitation is Jesus. That's right. Amen. I think when we hear the words, invite your friends to church, we switch off. We focus on the invitation element of it. The process of what it's going to be like to ask this person to come to church, to the event. We worry about the logistics. We worry about is it going to work with their schedules? Is it the right time? Do they live too far? Do they live too close? Do they know people? Do they have a story? Do the people know their story? All these things go through our heads. Do they live far? Do they live close? But that's not the point. The point is not the logistics. The point is Jesus. The central reason for the invitation, the central reason for us to be obedient to the things that he's called us to be and to do. It's him. Yeah. Isn't that a relief that it's not on you? So we carry Jesus everywhere we go. That's a very important thing. And it's also important for us to know that the church of Jesus Christ is all about Jesus. The church is not about what we want or how we can be served. The church is about Jesus. And when it is about Jesus, why would we not invite people to come and see him? I think I've spoken about this before. There's this dude, I don't know if some of you are on the TikTok or on the Instagram, and there's that guy on the subway with a card, and he talks to somebody, and they give him their unpopular opinion. And the one lady, she's like, I'm an atheist, but I don't think that Christians are religious enough. He's like, I totally disagree. And she's like, well, if you had this news that I am going to spend eternity separate, I'm paraphrasing here, separate from this God that you claim to know and love, these guys aren't passionate enough, because why would they shut up about it? If you had the antidote in your hands, why would you not give it away? Why would we not invite people to this Jesus that has changed our lives? You see, because we carry Jesus everywhere we go. Now, this is important, okay? So this is not just about the four walls of the church. I'm just gonna take a bit of a cheeky little digression here. Sometimes, we say, some of us like to say, but we are the church. You are a Jesus follower. We are the church. That's right. Just want to say that this morning. You are a son or a daughter of God. We are the church. Jesus has called you to be a part of us, because we were made in the image of us, in the image of Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We represent him wherever you go. So of course you can say that the church is not the only place where you can encounter Jesus. Of course that's true. I mean, I tell this story because it's sadly for me one of the only crazy wheelchair stories I've got, but it was my sister's. It's even worse. It wasn't even me. Out the church in a squatter camp in Cato Manor many, many years ago. A little teenager, Sarah Lee, walks up to a woman in a wheelchair. She lays hands, the woman experiences Jesus. She stands up and the wheelchair gets dismantled. Like a crazy story. Of course you can encounter Jesus outside of the four walls of the church. That's true. But the church is the only body that's been authorized by Jesus to advance his kingdom. They've been given the mandate. We, his church, his bride, have been given the mandate to advance God's kingdom. Okay, not non-profits, not little prayer groups. The church of Jesus Christ has been given the mandate. Everything else helps and assists that, but it is the church of Jesus, the sons and daughters of the Father, who pick up our cross daily and we follow him. The church of Jesus, despite its flaws, is the vehicle through which God intends to see this world redeemed. Why? It's the place we get to do it together. And that's how this is designed, for us to do it together. Church is where you belong, it's not where you attend. It's where you serve, it's not where you get. Church is a gathering of imperfect people who are different to you, who will push you out of your comfort zone, who will offend you. But it's the design of the Maker. Because that's where Jesus can be central. That's where Jesus can be central. I mean, guys, case in point, the disciples. You had, essentially the guy that wanted to blow up the Roman government and the guy who worked for the Roman government all in the same team. You know? It's like having an Arsenal fan. I don't worry about Arsenal fans. They can have their own church. When you go to a concert, years ago, we got invited to Mumford & Sons concert, okay? You go to a concert, we're going to go see Marcus Mumford. Really cool guy, okay? Really cool band. Mumford & Sons, arguably one of the big rock bands today. And you're going to, Mumford & Sons, and a little bit connected, might know a couple people. We got backstage passes, guys. Backstage passes to Mumford & Sons in Botanical Gardens all those years ago. Lekker. Now, backstage pass, it was really disappointing backstage experience because all they did was get a whole bunch, like a fence, wrap it with some Hessian cloth, and we just stood there waiting for the concert to start, and then we went to the thing. So I was like, I'm a little bit offended here. I didn't get to see Marcus. That's not cool. And then we go to the concert, and there's all these people, and some of them are have had too much beer, and some of them haven't had enough beer. You got to find a fine line sometimes in life. And there's people smoking, and it's all these different people. But I didn't care about any of that because I was there for the Mumford & Sons. Or it's it seems like 30% of the stadium yesterday in Mbecha, we rocked up to watch the Barbars play the Springboks. It's they don't care that the seat's empty next to them. They don't care that there's, a drunk uncle four rows down from them. They're not stressing about the fact that there's someone who's yelling obscenities at the referee. Why? They're there for the Springboks. Why does it change when we get into a church? When we need the environment sometimes to be perfect around us for us to have our attention on Jesus. If the attention is on Jesus, nothing else matters. That's right. If the attention is on Jesus, like our attention is on every Saturday to our sports team or to that concert that we love to go, where we don't mind what's happening. Again, my sister's a regular in today's sermon. She was a big T-Swizzle fan, Taylor Swift fan. Her mates, they all flew over to London to watch the concert. The things she experienced watching it in terms of all sorts of bodily fluids, she did not care because she was there to watch Tay-Tay. I wonder what the church would be like if we brought that passion into our Sunday services, into our community groups, where we would go, it's not about the person next to me, as lekker as you are, this is about the one who I'm here to worship. This is the one about Jesus. We gather as a family of faith because of Jesus, and that's why we invite people, because that's what the role of the Jesus follower is to help people know the Jesus that we know. We don't have to be religious about it. We don't have to be sticklers about it. We don't have to look at all of a sudden our friends are no longer our friends. They just are numbers that we're going to fill our church with. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying sometimes we need to just realize what we have, people want.
That's right.
In fact, what we have, people are desperate for. And just like the woman at the well, we might not even fully understand that we have it all yet. So why do we struggle with the invitation? It's awkward, eh? I have this weird fear that I don't like ringing people's doorbells because I don't know if I'm ringing the right house. In fact, a good example, Matt and Mary used to live on Lambert Road, and I for some reason, could never quite remember the door, so I never rang the doorbell because I didn't want to ring it, never. I would always phone away, hey! Because what happened was, years ago, my friend, his name is Calvin, for this, the Lord sent him to Australia. We were walking to a party. I didn't know anybody at this party. It was up in Hillcrest. It was with a bunch of Hillcrest people, and we were at this estate, and we're walking, and I don't know where we're going. Now, I'm old enough for this not to be an issue. Just want to put it out there. And I'm young enough for it to scar me. So we're walking, and he's like, hey, Matt, it's just down the store. So I walk down the store, down the house, and I'm a friendly guy. I might not be I'm a little bit, you might not believe it, but I am, but take a time to warm up in a social setting. But if I'm walking into someone's home, I've been taught as a South African young man, you go and you shake the man's hand and the wife's hand. You say, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I walked in. I thought, this is odd that the host of the house is in his boxers, a large man. I grabbed his hand. I said, it's so nice to see. Thank you for having me. And he was like, who are you? I turn around, and Calvin, my mate, is hosing himself laughing. He sent me down 3 houses early into some poor stranger's house. That's the problem. That's how we think people are going to experience church when we invite them to church. Please tell them we wear clothes here at this church, okay? Research clearly shows, over and over again, that personal invitation is still the most effective way to bring people into the life of a local church. Study after study, a simple truth emerges. Most people who start attending a church do so because someone they know invited them.
That's right.
And this is multiple research over this decade, many, many times. More than half of the research, say the personal connection is one of the top reasons people choose a place to belong. Now, we have fantastic things like websites and Google and Facebook, and that's all a fantastic tool. And some of you here are sitting because of that, and that's fantastic. That's fantastic. But now, you also have people in your lives that would come in easier through a personal connection through you. And that's a wonderful thing for us to know. Churches that grow are churches that invite. So I just want to say, this is not a church growth strategy. This is not about getting the numbers up. This is about being what God has called us to be, salt and light. Why would they not want or be attracted to this person that has changed our lives called Jesus? 96% of unchurched adults say they would somewhat or very likely attend a church if invited.
Wow.
And the majority of us think that the majority of the unchurched people don't want to come to church and they're going to say no to us. 96% of people. This was done in 2024. So this is fairly recent research. But Barna, who are a great research house in the USA, say that pastors largely and overwhelmingly believe that their congregations are welcoming to new people, and that personal relationships remain the primary way guests first encounter a church. 72% of growing churches are churches that encourage members to invite others. And churchgoers, okay, I'm not going to look at anybody. Churchgoers who attend more frequently are more likely to extend the invitation. Interesting. This is not about church growth. This is not about filling up seats. This is about us understanding that we have people in our lives who currently right now are lost. They're desperate for Jesus. It's like they're like that woman walking up to the well. Like Nathaniel just wandering around until his friend invited. We have people that are wandering blind in pain that desperately need the good news. You have the good news, and you have a place in which you work out the good news with other people. So what are the barriers to invitation? Among those who didn't invite others to church, here are some of the reasons. Are you ready for some stats? Don't you love a good stat in a sermon? Makes Quinton so pumped. Depends on the source. It's Barna, it's fine. 27% of people say they didn't know someone to invite. Okay, so these are reasons, and I have to say I tick a lot of these boxes, 26% of people have had the experience of declined invitations. So some people say no, a little bit awkward. 13% felt uncomfortable extending an invitation. The first three reasons seem to be all about the individual. Seems like that's a you issue. 7% said it wasn't their responsibility. And that 7% need to study the Bible. 4% say they were too busy on Sundays. 19% said they didn't have any specific reason. 5% cited other reasons. A guy called D.T. Nile says evangelism is just one beggar telling another beggar how we find bread. Evangelism is just one beggar telling another beggar how to find bread. I've been in church my whole life. I find it very, very hard to invite people to church. And it's because we have all these different things happening around us in the world around us. We have this, we don't like to be rejected. One of the reasons, could it be that, have we not fully comprehended all that Jesus has done for us? That could be something that's on the table. I think sometimes we try to be hip and cool and relevant, and love that famous saint. Was it Francis of Assisi who said, preach the gospel with everything you do, and if possible, use words? Well, I don't necessarily agree that there's got to be a comma, but also use your words. The proclamation of the gospel. And then it's like there's a part of this message that we, in 2026, in a kind of a hybrid Western world, we kind of don't like to get to this part that there is an eternity and people have to spend eternity somewhere. That's awkward. I'm just being real with, these are all the things that go through my head. And then I'll throw another layer that I have. Now, this is not, you will have different layers. We all have different layers to this. Sometimes I just want my friends to know that I love them as a pastor, and I'm not after them to be members of our church. Sometimes you just want friends to know that we're friends, that there's no hidden agenda, But there is also the agenda of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and sometimes those people are the people that are broken and desperate, and they need to be invited in. And maybe the invitation starts with an intentional relationship that then starts into why don't you come for a coffee? And then it's, well, why don't you come and hang out with me on a Sunday? Whatever it looks like. So what does this practically look like for us in this church? Okay, so it's very simple. We have Sunday mornings you can invite your friends to. We have community groups that you can invite your friends to. Sometimes people find that as a softer landing. Sometimes people like to hide in a crowd. So sometimes the Sunday morning's a better bet. Sometimes someone walks in and guaranteed, they walk in that one Wednesday night or Tuesday night whenever you meet and no one's there and it's just you and the visitor. And you're like, how's it? I will say once, this is a confession, once years ago, we had a cell group many years ago when we called them cell groups of a couple of us youngsters in the church. I was the youngest in this group of young adults, and there was a visitor coming. I shouldn't even be saying this. So the one guy, it wasn't me, I was young and impressionable. One guy thought, well, let's pretend that we're praying for somebody and there's a demonic manifestation as the person walks in. She came from another church. It wasn't like this person walks in and my friend was like, in the name of Jesus, come out. And the guy on the floor was like, ah! And it was a surprise that that's not how you invite someone to come. She didn't come back. There are do's and don'ts in this world.
That was not in our church. Stay there.
It was, the people who did that are no longer in our church. The Lord dealt with them. No, I'm joking. And we really mean it. We are a real house. We do mistakes. We say, I'm sorry, do second chances. The mics sometimes go off. Sometimes we do the wrong announcements. Sometimes it's all chaos. But it's not about that. It's about Jesus. And we have to understand that it's about Jesus. And it's about actually your walk with Jesus. I can't help you follow Jesus much. I can say these are good scriptures to read, but it's like if you want to learn to swim, you have to learn how to swim. If you want to learn how to run a race, you're going to have to at some point put one leg in front of the other and run joylessly for however long you run for that race. We have to at some point pick up our cross, our responsibility, and walk out this thing. And part of walking out this thing of being a Jesus follower, you and I cannot escape it. We have a message that is good news for the world to hear. And the space in which that God has practically and logistically designed this thing called the advancement of His kingdom is a group of individual Christians who belong in communities around the world that believe in the one who died for us, who was raised to life, the Father, the Holy Spirit, all the basics, the fundamentals of our faith. That's what we are about. Churches all over the city, this continent today, all around the world are gathering around this truth. And it is these churches that are the vehicle through which God wants to advance His kingdom. And they're not perfect, and I'm not perfect. I'm the first one to admit. These four in the front row will give you many reasons why I'm not perfect. But at the end of the day, the one who is in me and the one who has called me is perfect, and His love is perfect, and He has called you to tell someone about that good and perfect love. So whether you are the woman at the well or you are like Philip, doesn't really matter where you are on the spectrum. Jesus has a job for you, and that job is to be bearers of the light and the good news that He has for this dark world. Many years ago, there was moments where we've had many evolutions of what our youth ministry looked like. Many years ago, I'll never forget, we had a youth night. Remember when it was called JC Warehouse? Hey, it was the 90s. Lord help us. It was the early 2000s, JC Warehouse. And, that was when people used hip hop to reach young people with Jesus. And I remember I was so excited, I invited everybody I knew, all my friends. And I remember walking around. It was a big gymnasium it was Centec up the road, big gymnasium. And I remember telling people, and I remember spending hours getting ready and I remember, where do I put this pot plant? Do I put it here? Do I put it there? How's it going to make a vibe? I was like, oh, this is so exciting. And we sent the invitation and no one came. No one came. And I was a little 13, 14-year-old Matt Friday night. It was just the regular group. And so there are those moments where you look back and you go, man, those are difficult moments. So do I do it again? And I want to just use what we saw yesterday. Did any of you watch the SAA game versus Zimbabwe? Anybody watch that game? Well done. Well done, Bart. Those Zimbabwean players surely knew that they were going to experience a level of pain. And then I thought it was SAA side, some lighties. And I saw was playing and some prop. I think that oak must be one of the biggest props I've ever seen who came on. And all they did was they just did what they were supposed to do. They got beaten well, but they got up and they just tackled. They did it again. And they did it again. It didn't matter what happened in the previous moment in the game. It didn't really happen. They just kept on going. I just thought had so much respect for those guys by the time that game, because I would have been I'm out of here. Why do I need to tackle? I was I can't play this game. I watched the primary school first team play the other day. I'm I'm not tackling that guy. You must be mad. We allow too much of our past scar tissue and too much of our own issues from the past pre-Jesus determine how we are with the people who don't know Him in our walk with Him today. And I want to encourage you guys, there is no reason on the face of this planet for us not to invite people to come and see a man who told me everything about me. Come and see a man who changed my life. There are other moments we say, I once was blind, but now I see. So learn how to tell your story. Know that you are never here on a Sunday by mistake. God is doing something and weaving something eternally that we are not aware of most of the time. And let's lean into this culture of invitation. So I want to encourage you, church. I want to encourage you to lean into this truth that you are called and qualified to tell people about Jesus. And as leaders and pastors in this church, you have all the authority on heaven and on earth to invite people into the space that they would be changed and marked by Jesus eternally. I just think there's too much at stake, quite frankly, in people's lives. And I think that everybody in this room would love to do that. So why don't we trust God, lean into this, and let's invite people for a coffee to come on a Sunday morning, however we can, that they can experience the love and mercy of Jesus. So we would actually run into our community and say, come and see this guy. Guys, you've got to check it out. I might not have the full picture, but man, he told me everything about myself.